project area we're focusing on, the little barrier watershed. Here we're at this church, who has a large parking area and a large fielded area to the west. So this project was to help the church in this area, help bring in the water and filter it in the ground, and then to the existing detention pond system. So we started out with just a ditch areas around, and where behind me this used to be just a grass ditch. And ran it. This chain link fence behind us where the existing detention pond is. So we retrofitted this whole area with a few little rain gardens that are connected to bioswales that help carry all this excess water that gets run off from the asphalt or the field, graveled area. So we try to take all this water, slowly filter it through this system, and then eventually, if it's too much water, we'll get into the storm detention pond as an overflow. But essentially, we want to keep the water here and hold it down in the ground at this point before it has to go out into our storm system.
What's the difference between a rain garden and a bioswale? I hear those words often. I feel like they're sometimes used interchangeably, but it seems like there are some key differences.
Yeah. Essentially, they're fairly well the same thing, but it has a lot to do with either a distance that we need to cover to capture water, or to then capture water and hold it, put it through to another area. So for this one, behind me, or behind Sarah over here, we have an inflow to a rain garden on the other side of the sidewalk. That captures everything from the asphalt over there into that side. On the other side of this sidewalk and that culvert, this whole stretch then that was behind me is considered a bioswale. So the initial holding cell is the rain garden. Once that is reached max capacity with water, it brings the water through the culvert into this bioswale. So it's a longer version of a rain garden to help slow the flow of the water in the ground versus just running through the whole system really quickly like it would through a piping system. So a bioswale is another approach to capturing water over a longer distance, but essentially it's the same thing as a rain garden. It's just a more channelized, graded slope flow through for the water.
So it looks like you have a lot of plants out here. Why are we planting right now? A lot of popular planting times are in the summer, but it seems like there's a better planting season.
Yes, there definitely is a better planting season, especially after the summers that we've been having. We don't try to plant in the summer because then it takes a lot more maintenance and personnel to then maintain and water those plants in the summertime. For our native plants, they're dormant right about now. They're in a really good time to then up-pot them and then put them in the ground. The roots are ready to just kind of settle down for the winter time. As soon as the temperature of the soil changes next spring, they'll start exploding.
So although, this is the rainy season and everything else, but like November through April is kind of the best planting season.
Yes, very ideal time for native plants. They love it. They get enough water to hold them through until the roots start getting active again, and they'll be ready to roll.
What are some of the issues with stormwater? It seems like we're constantly harping about rain gardens, bioswales, anything to do with helping mitigate runoff. Why is stormwater runoff such an issue?
Yeah, great question. For this grant, we're focusing on commercial parking lots, so large areas that have a lot of surfaces, and we need to take that water because as soon as it hits the asphalt from the rain, from the clouds, it starts collecting and picking up everything that's on the ground, whether it be good organic matter or bad human created chemicals. So we want to slow those chemicals, those particulates, those inorganic matter, not carry it into our streams. We want to hold it in these places and let the plants, the soil, the mulch do the work to help filter out and clean that before that water is essentially a bad thing, but if it does accumulate and pick up things that that's what's it's not just so much the chemicals of things that are getting picked up, but it's just the amount of volume flow at any one given time that can be actually
how do projects like this help salmon? You often hear, you know, install a rain garden to help salmon. Does that have to do with water quality?
Yeah, that's the main goal, is water quality. There's been numerous studies, and recent ones of late have come out to show that, you know, brake pad, tire rubber, anything that we use for our vehicles, that manufacturing and producing these parts, but when we're driving them on the road, all that stuff, and over time it just accumulates. So we want to try to, lessen that initial toxicity of how many of those things are getting into our streams, lakes, and creeks and stuff. And that's, salmon are super susceptible to any of those things in the water. They're surrounded in that environment of water, and it's being carried inside the water. So that's what we're always trying to push, to get people to install rain gardens, capture this water here to help lessen the downstream effects that can be included in collecting and contaminating.
So we've done a couple projects in Woodinville. Why is this area pretty important to get some of these projects done? Is there an issue? Some of the creeks and streams around here?
Yeah, so per this grant, it's funded by the Department of Ecology, they have a big focus areas, and this is one of them, the Little Bear Watershed. It's a pretty large watershed, and it encompasses quite a big area. And a lot of that area isn't so much built up and urbanized, but we still have these important headwater areas of these streams that we need to work better on it, stopping some of these floods from running into the stream so quickly and so easily. So these areas are all kind of picked out for the grant requirements and what we need to do, and find these areas that are impaired, but at the same time is working with landowners and owners to kind of convince them that this is a great thing. It's going to look great, it's going to be functional, and it's going to be really educational for anybody that's a part of the business, the congregation, what have you, wherever the project's at.
Can you give like a basic explanation for what a watershed is?
Yeah, real simple. Watershed has to do with, given topography in an area and where the water, at the highest point of the topography, it hits and then falls down. So you can have a hill, that hill, half the water's going to go one way, half the water's going to go the other way. That's essentially the start of a watershed, is these boundaries where water flows from one direction and or the other. So we've got this upper area, it's kind of an elevated space above the bare watershed. So we kind of want to start up here and then gradually work these projects down right to the edge of the watersheds, the main channels that collect all the water and feed it to the next watershed or to the ocean.
Okay, so basically an area where all the water drains to.
Basically, yeah.
Awesome. We have lots of different plants here. I see some ferns and shrubs. How do you all choose plants for rain gardens and or bioswells?
Great question. It sometimes can be really hard to choose because there's so many great plants. We stick with native plants as best as possible. A lot of times nurseries aren't capable of supplying all of the plants we need, so we kind of reach out to either different nurseries or cultivars of native species that we have that do the almost exact same thing. They just look a little different than our actual natives. So when it comes to rain garden or bioswale, different areas of that swale or rain garden have different wetness requirements for it. So where you see the water in the middle of the channel, that's going to be our wettest area. This is the one. Choosing those plants is fairly easy. We just try to find plants that love being in water. So around here, that happens to be a lot of sedges and grasses and rushes, and they do a really great job of being wet, being in that water, spreading the roots out, spreading up new shoots of the same plant, and capturing and slowing that water. They do an amazing job at filtering a lot of different pollutants and particulates out of our water. So that's our really important zone. Zone one is getting those really hard-working plants in there. That's going to be our grasses, sedges, and rushes. There are a few other varieties of plants, species of plants that we do use, but those are our key middle wet zones. As you work up from the center channel, you get zone 2, that's your medium wetness, to semi-dry. So then, we then take that same concept of what plants like that kind of setting. So then that's what drives us and guides and steers us to put these plants where we're at. So we've got ferns and roses and water plants driest area at any given time. So we put more drought-loving plants up here. Still working hard, still look beautiful up here because it's typically all the flowering stuff that gets up here to add that texture, that look, and still functionality to the plants that we do in our.
It's very helpful. Thank you, Marianne. I am trying to shield the mic. It is windy, but I hope that you all are still able to hear, and apologize. It's just a windy day. Luckily, it's not raining right now, which is really nice. Perfect, Taylor. Thank you. So some of these plants are pretty small. Some are potted. Looks like we got some plugs on your back right shoulder. Are these plants full grown, or are they going to grow bigger? Why are they smaller?
Yeah, we do like to use small, newer young plants. They tend to be more ready for when they get in the ground and the springtime kicks. They have them bigger early on than they need to just take over an area and explode. And that's kind of why we use the young plants. For one, they're ready to go. They're just waiting to get grown. So they start them young. We got room for them to spread and grow. And that way we can see, what does survive, what doesn't survive, and then if we can come in and fill in some, with other varieties of plants to, fill in those spots. But we like them small to give them the space so that they can get big and grow. That's kind of why we choose the small ones.
Awesome. So it looks like we have some wood chip mulch on top of this. What is this wood chip mulch called?
Grab a little bit so y'all can see a little better. This is animal friendly hog fuel. You get it from a couple different vendors. Pacific Topsoil is one, or Cedar Grove. They both carry a really good hog's fuel. Essentially, it is softwood coniferous trees ground and shredded up into fine pieces to larger chunk pieces. You're not going to get hopefully any cedar in this. This is all should be fir, hemlocks, and stuff like that. The reason we use this is it's extremely good at what it does. Multiple things is it holds weeds at bay, keeps them down, especially if you get it on nice and thick. Another thing is it just holds up longer and better. This stuff takes a while to break down, and then while it's breaking down, it's releasing what it's been capturing as it's sitting. We don't use any bark. Bark is really not beneficial anyway. It looks okay, but it provides no real benefit to the overall system here. It kind of just clogs things up. It floats away when it gets wet. It doesn't really suppress anything, and it provides most of the nutrients over time. So we use this stuff in all of our GSI projects, stormwater projects, rain gardens, just clearing out a grassed area for a native planted area. This is what we put on. It packs really well, it's really solid, easy to dig into if you need to, but it just really is a great material for the long term on these kind of projects.
You said GSI. What does GSI stand for?
Or sorry for the lingo, but Green Stormwater Infrastructure. It has all to do with the terms that we use for these kind of projects, whether it used to be a small rain garden or a larger system like this. It is a green stormwater infrastructure project. So it's a low impact development type of a project. We don't bring in a whole lot of equipment. It doesn't take a lot of personnel or equipment to make these projects. But yeah, GSI is a term we'll throw around a little bit. You may hear often in consumer artwork. It just has to do with the project.
Perfect, Taylor. Thank you. Can we maybe just have a planting demonstration?
We'll get my stuff and we'll get set up right behind you.
I will follow you. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're excited to be doing another live stream. Happy to take any questions you have. If you have specific questions or just general questions, feel free to shoot away.
All right. So the basics of planting bioswale rain garden. Find the area that your plant's at. Look around, make sure the plant is placed where it needs to be. First off, you gotta move this mulch out of the way. It just helps with not getting soil and mulch mixed all together. start to do is just work the area that you're wanting to start putting the plants into. And this area up here, since it's outside of the rain garden or the bioswale, has a mix of our rain garden soil and the native soil, as you can see. So it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to dig out. Oh yeah, and there's a lot of rocks in this land here, so you're going to see a lot of rocks in here.
What's the general rule of thumb for planting? So do you want to dig the hole as deep as the root system is?
Yeah, so two things to consider is the depth and the width. The depth should be at least, a whole nother pot length deep, and then the width should be about 2 pots wide. Give the plant enough space, and then enough unbroken soil or broken soil in there for the roots to move around. So we want to get deeper than the pot is, so the roots aren't going to be stuck there. And if anybody knows anything about plants, they'll get pot bound in here. But if you don't do it right in the ground, they can technically get root bound and pot bound in the ground if you don't break it up enough. So I'm about there. Got my big hole. Got it wide enough. And a lot of these plants are really easy to come out. Some species really get tight when they're growing in here. But just kind of give it a little knock around, grab low, dump it like this. Then with these ones, you can see that the roots aren't super bound in here, but you're still going to want to kind of break this up a little bit, whether with your knife, trowel, chop it up a little bit, or your hands. You kind of just break those roots up, break the top up a little bit, and then make sure you have enough soil. So I got mine pretty deep. It's going to sit too low, so you can add a little bit more soil, make sure it's loose, sit in here, and then you start filling around it. All that extra soil you moved and dug out, put it around, give it kind of a wiggle to make sure it's sitting in there nice. And yeah, put this all around it, find rocks, sit it there, and then you put your mulch back up and around the plant. Some plants don't like to have the mulch right up against them. Some of your woodier plants, like this red twig dogwood, you're going to want to not have the mulch resting up against the stalk or the woody pieces. We'll try to have more of a space around it like it is in the pot. It's better for the wood-on-wood contact, contamination or diseasing.
So that would essentially, if the wood was touching and there was too much mulch along the base of the shrub or tree, it could rot the plant.
Yep. So, but with greeny foliage or grassy stuff, you can have mulch more up right up to the plant itself. But if it's a woodier plant, try to keep the mulch just that way.
So woody, leave space around the base of the plant, and then not anything non-woody, it's not an issue. Great. That's awesome. Thank you. Now we have the ability to do a little tour if you would all like, and Taylor can kind of explain some of the projects. I will try to keep the camera as still as possible to not get anyone just a little motion sickness or anything else, but I think we should kind of get a better idea of how big this project is and how some of the water is moving through here. So can I follow you, Taylor?
Yeah,
and
we'll start at the
beginning.
Our way to the end of the outflow. So
Great.
yeah, we'll start at the beginning.
We can catch the crew as we go too.
So this would be technically one of the inflows. This one, and there's one on the other side of the building. They're essentially the same. But what we do here is we find the low spot of where the asphalt is coming and the water wants to go. So we identified this spot as where water comes into this area, where both of the edges or ends of the asphalt come to meet. This is where it's going to come in. So what we did was we broke out the curve on the end, and we broke it out up to here. So any water sheeting across the asphalt and down will have a chance to access the rain garden. So this right here is the beginning first rain garden. All the water you see coming in and still coming in and still being filtered out right now will sit here in this first phase cell. Once this gets filled, underneath here there's a culvert that is lower than the inflow. So as soon as the water gets to that level where it's high enough but not too high for the outside of that, it'll come in here and enter the bioswale. This is where the real work happens with the rain garden. As you can see right now from our weekend's weather, there's still a lot of water in here, and since it's being a pretty fresh and new bioswale rain garden, it's going to take a little time for the water and the soils and all this stuff to kind of start working really well together. Right now, we're just kind of flowing through real fast. So we got this water here in the swale. It's going to go its way down towards the other side, and we can walk down that way and explain. This area is the first part of the bioswale.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a large project. So with such a big construction project, about how long does it take to install a project like this?
This project here took over 2 weeks. Because of the size of the project, the size of the crew, we only can get so much done in a given day or a given week. Taking your time to make sure everything's done properly. We have trucks and trailers, we don't have dump trucks, so it takes a while to get a lot of soil. So this point here, this is the end of the first part of the swale. So this whole section between that rain garden and then this rain garden is a swale, and that's going to help hold and slow a lot of our water before it gets all the way to the end over here. So at this point, the water's going to flow through this swale, and it hits another culvert that goes over this sidewalk. And at that point, this is when the two sides of this project come together. There's another swale and a rain garden on that side that comes in this way, and then this one comes in and feeds together and then into our main outflow that's connected into the existing detention pond over here. So as the water is moving through the system, it's moving down, it's coming here. And since we've had just so much water and the rain garden's not established yet with plants and soil, and the water hasn't really had a chance to get into the sink, the water is going to take a little bit longer for it to enter the ground right now. But as plants start to establish over the years, and then the soil is getting used to all this new water that's being into it right now, because we've dug it out. The soil we dug into hasn't had water on it in who knows how many years. It could be hundreds of years. So it's got to take a while for that water to work its way into this new native soil underneath, along with our bioretention soil that's in here. So that's why there's a lot of water in it right now. Obviously you all seen the rain we've had. This is a good example of what is going on with all the water in a parking lot. It goes somewhere, and this is where it's going today, right into our bioswale / rain garden.
So as the plants are planted, it will help absorb some of this water as well.
Yeah. A lot of these plants, specifically the ones in the middle, the really wet plants, do a really good job at pulling water up into them and then out back and respirating back out the atmosphere. Also, when those plants are getting established over those first couple of years, their roots dig down and create these little spaces for the water to then infiltrate down further also, as well as being brought up by the plant. So that, that's why we start them young, so they have room and they can get growing real fast, and then over the next couple of years, they'll be really established, really work with roots downward, and then roots pull the water up.
Amazing.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions on the function, why there's so much water in here right now, why is the mulch all moved out of the way, please ask. There's just some little things we're doing right now to kind of help the water flow out so we can get in here and plant. It's really, really wet and we don't want to do something inside the rain.
Yes, that can happen. Maybe it did sink a little bit earlier, but it's totally fine.
Nobody saw it.
Great, and this project extends a little bit to the side of the building?
Yep, it goes around the corner, that culvert connects the other swale and smaller rain garden in the front that's capturing water off the front end of the asphalt of the property, and then it's bringing it out this way. Also.
Yeah, let's check it out. And it is starting to rain, which, is pretty standard for right now. I was thankful that the rain was able to hold off.
So this is the other inflow on the other side of the church in the north section. It's the same deal that we just looked at in the beginning. It's a small little rain garden area in the front that then curves around to this other swale that's a lot smaller compared to the other side that we were just talking about. So it brings the water here, flows underneath me to this culvert, and then out back out from, like I said, where it's next so this is acting as our double overflow, and carry the water slowly into the main overflow for this system, and back into our stormwater. So what we're doing here is slowing the water, cleaning the water before it gets here, and this is doing a little bit of work to help drop this particulates out of the water before it heads off downstream.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And do you have a crew that you installed these projects with? In the past, we've had a Veterans Conservation Corps crew, which you were a part of. And now we have just a community conservation crew with still some veterans and everything else.
Yeah. We started the Veterans Conservation Corps about 6 years ago and have been running it in conjunction with the Washington Department of Veteran Affairs. And then this year we kind of changed up a little bit with the nature of things as far as like workforce was going. We were having a really hard time finding anybody. And we were just focusing on trying to find veterans, and that was being real difficult with just the nature of the work environment right now, and just people needing work or not needing work. So we switched it up a little bit. We're still part of that. We're still taking in veterans as preferred, but then we opened it up to anybody and everybody. Right now it's winding down for the crew season. This is the last little bit of projects we have, is just planting all the ones we dug up, and then we'll go on hold till the next spring. We'll stand up another crew. Yeah, once we have the opening up, anybody can apply. They don't have to be a veteran. Any community member that wants to get their hands dirty for a few months and do some hard work, always join me. And we'll be doing it again next year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Really great. We have a few members out here today helping plant it. Jay behind me started digging way a while ago. She likes to get working, and we have Denise up behind us who both these two have been with the crew for almost 2 years, and they know how things operate and roll, and need very little direction, which is great for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long do you estimate planting all of these plants? We have almost 800 plants out here today. Do you think it's feasible to complete this planting today?
No. If we had a couple more hands, it would maybe be possible, but no. With these kind of deals, especially with the size and scale of these rain gardens, it definitely takes a while to plant. We're always a small crew. We tend to try to get a lot done in a day, and we'll get a good chunk of this knocked out, but I don't believe we'll get all of it. That's a nice thing at this time. We have time to be able to get all these plants in that need to get in the ground with all the projects.
Whew, that was a good gust of wind. Oh my. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to follow you back here and get another scan of the project. We've been doing a lot of stormwater projects, whether it's rain gardens or bioswells. And even though we specifically focus on Snohomish County and Camino Island, we have done some projects that are outside of our service area. So we've done projects in Whatcom County and Skagit County and Mason County, so many other places. So it's been really nice to kind of share some of our expertise that we've had here. One of our engineers, Derek Hahn, really designs all of these projects, does all the engineering work, and he's really become a leader in rain garden implementation and projects, and getting more installed throughout the Puget Sound. So it's really nice to kind of be a leader in some of this work and really see how it can take off. And with some newer buildings and as different codes come about, some cities are requiring to have, rain gardens along right-of-way streets and other projects like that kind of like starting to happen more and more. I know there is a couple rain gardens in like downtown Marysville that they've been doing. So it's just really cool to see projects like these pick up speed and become more popular. And you know, having Snohomish Conservation District be a leader in this field especially.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up, is that it is slowly becoming more of a trend to install and implement these in new either road construction, right-of-way construction, and or commercial lots that are being done. It's kind of a slow rolling trend that we're hoping to keep pushing. So a lot of these projects that we do like this and outside the county are kind of, you know, multi-folded. Yes, it's providing functionality and aesthetics of what it is, but it's also just like more an example and an educational piece too, for whether it be municipalities, for counties, and you know, businesses even. Other construction companies that see these types of projects can take that model and bring it into their development. Like, you got a new, smaller housing development, you can incorporate swales and rain gardens into the build of the houses, into the design of the streets, and that's kind of what we're seeing more and more of. And that's what our goal is, to like, hey, look at this, these work, they're really, really cheap and easy to do. Let's keep throwing them on the ground. They provide a little more functionality, a lot more functionality than our basic retention ponds that are coded and required for development and builds. They're not the same. They don't function the same. They don't provide the same real necessary work that the rain gardens provide and the swales provide. They do hold the flow of, you know, big storm event, which is that's kind of the purpose, but it doesn't do anything more than that. It just holds water for a little while and then it releases it. This style of low impact green stormwater infrastructure does hold that water down into the ground. Plants pull it up. It's much more functional, and to be honest, it looks a whole lot better than the retention ponds.
Ooh, and the rain's starting to fall down. I just got a couple quick questions, and I guess an additional comment is, so these projects, rain gardens, bioswells, obviously help filter water. They allow water to infiltrate into the ground, in some cases recharging aquifers and things like that. But with being able to plant them with native plants, there's that additional benefit of wildlife habitat, resources, so places for animals to raise their young, cover, and protection from elements and things like that. So having, you know, whether it's a tall working grape, something that can offer berries, thistle that can offer seeds to birds, even this mulch where there's going to be some, you know, native insects, and that will be able to provide wildlife with additional food resources. So there's definitely added benefits, whether it's just water quality or habitat for wildlife.
Much. Yeah, there's the insects around it, but it's kind of a waste dead zone of things. Removing that grass and just simply putting in mulch is already 1,000 times better for the insects that are going to be needing that space and wanting to use that space. And yeah, you put the plants and get the plants some time to do their thing. It's going to be a hugely noticeable difference in the wildlife in this area and having this back right here. So just plain grass, nothing else. It's going to be a big game-changing area for a lot of basic backyard habitat.
That is awesome. Well, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time out of planting to answer some of my questions and to share a little bit about this project. I wanted to leave some space if anyone had any questions for Taylor that they would like to ask. Thank you to our crew, Denise and Jay over here. Hi Denise, Jay's getting on his rain gear because it has started to pour a little bit. And I guess we'll all get a little preview of how this bioswale and rain garden is going to work. So thank you so much, Taylor. I hope you all have a wonderful day and are able to stay dry.
Have any questions by the time we're all done? Just let me know. I'll start planting plants.
Perfect. Yeah. And if anyone has comments after we end, you can do so. You can just comment right on the live stream on Facebook, and then we will try to get you connected to get those questions answered.
Thanks all. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. If you all have any questions about stormwater projects, GSI, habitat restoration, anything with agriculture, natural resources in general, please reach out to us at snohomishcd.org. That is our website. And you can always ask us any questions, or if you need assistance, we'll try to get you connected. I hope you have a great day.